since I have made a public statement concerning the program. It has been a strategic decision on my part to lay low for a few months, while I at the same time have been very active in fighting back against the unlawful political persecution of me. I have been judicially battling with the Danish government and its institutes in a legal case regarding my civil liberties, as my government has and is denying me these civil liberties outright in favour of the program and the intelligence agencies. Since the case is still ongoing, I will not elaborate on the case with much detail, as this would be a bad strategical move on my part, as President Obama said recently in a speech regarding the use of proxies in Syria.
Until that time, we're going to continue to have tensions and we're going to continue to have differences. But we're not going to make Syria into a proxy war between the United States and Russia. That would be bad strategy on our part.
Which brings me to the next part of my little update. While the case I just alluded to is directly against institutes of the Danish government, a second case I have ongoing is a civil court case, precisely against my landlord, who last year was being used as a proxy to the intelligence agencies, who coordinated an effort to have me evicted from my apartment on false and fabricated grounds. You may remember this from my previous documentary called TheProgram, which I published in January of 2015, in which I go into much greater detail regarding this failed attempt to have me evicted, where I also in fact state that I was not going to stand for this kind of behaviour, which is precisely why there now is a legal case against this landlord who last year tried to have me evicted through the enforcement court, in which they failed miserably despite being protected and assisted throughout this case and beyond. Again, since this case is also ongoing, I cannot, unfortunately, go into much more detail, since I may need to use this info in court rather than in this statement. The purpose of me coming out with this statement now is that the establishment's propaganda campaigns against me have now again intensified to new extremes, where I, Stephen Bell, of course, is being portrayed as this great evil which everyone must assist in defeating by all means necessary. Moreover, the heinous and outrageous accusations which they have and are propagating against me are just utterly ridiculous and absurd. Why I cannot any longer sit idly by being slandered and character assassinated through these establishments' sponsored propaganda campaigns, which is why I will now take a couple of minutes to have a look at some logical and factual based facts, rather than the baseless accusations and outrageous claims which they are claiming. It's no secret that the establishments who gave birth to the program have since its inception based their whole narrative around me being this great evil who, after their account, has committed an abundance of heinous criminal acts. I have literally been accused of everything under the sun, but I have yet to be made aware of any of my crimes, and furthermore arrested and convicted and jailed for these heinous acts which they are claiming publicly, which to any objective and rational person is incompatible, as the government will usually never state someone's suspected guilt until it has been proven in a court of law, as this would not be in the government's benefit or interest, and furthermore could result in any pending case being dismissed, not to mention the illegality of accusing someone of crimes publicly before any guilt is established. This is just one common fact of law in any civilized country. In the program, the opposite seems to be true as a common factor, where guilt and accusations are made publicly and not legally, which obviously makes it a lot less difficult for them, as they only need to brand someone unilaterally, in this case me, with whatever accusation they wish to accuse me of, simply by propagandizing the accusations through the media and other mediums, which you well know as you are the recipients of their propaganda. These propaganda campaigns are undoubtedly tailored to invoke your emotions rather than appealing to your common sense and logic, which is classic in any propaganda. Therefore, I personally would like to appeal to your common sense and logic rather than trying to use your human nature against you. I don't know if you have noticed, the more pressure that I have been able to apply through legal means, the more the campaigns against me have intensified. Not just the propaganda campaigns, but also the use of the public as a means of a proxy to stage all sorts of problems for me by using well-established methods and gaslighting and other psychological operations, all orchestrated through the program and intelligence agencies. This is especially clear to see these days, where both the cases I have alluded to are at a stage where they are beginning to be defining, which means the result of these cases could well be setting the precedents for what the establishments are going to be able to get away with in the future, despite their unlawful actions being challenged in court. Therefore, this will not only affect me, but every other general citizen who resides in the Western world. Otherwise, they would not be so keen in publicizing their own unlawful actions as they constantly do, which evidently means that this is going to have a much broader impact on everyone in general. It's certainly clear to see from where I'm sitting that there are other forces actively trying to control and sabotage and censor both of my ongoing cases through extrajudicial means. This is a fact that I can and will prove when the time comes for me to do so. On a side note, you might want to put the following into consideration.
قول الصوارم كي تسترد المظالم حتى الأراذيل ساموا رسول أهل العزائم القول قول الصوارم كي تسترد.
Al-Ramadi has galvanized the Iraqi government. So with the additional steps I ordered last month, we're speeding up training of ISIL forces, including volunteers from Sunni tribes in Anbar province.
And for the last 9 days, you have seen how the United States and much of the Western world are completely outraged at Russia because they have been bombing ISIS and other terrorist groups properly in Syria. Some of the most influential powers who are outraged at Russia are the powers that be in the program, which to my misfortune means that I would never again see peace, or for that matter have a normal life, as no politician or establishment has any particular interest in me personally, or for that matter citizens in general having individual rights, which if used properly can hinder a government agenda to a certain extent. I would use my own example, the program, as I have single-handedly against all odds managed to defend myself from the dozens attempts on my well-being the last 5 years. Not that I'm saying that the establishment yet have attempted to assassinate me, as that is not in their objective, as if it was I would be dead a long time ago. I actually suspect the only reason I'm still alive is that they, the establishments, are still capitalizing greatly on the perpetuation of the program and thereby the political persecution of me. So there is no reason to kill off one's golden patsy, which provides the pretext for the continuation of the program and all that entails. This will give you an idea of the magnitude of the program's value to the establishments. So you now might understand how willing they are to do anything and everything to keep the program running unhindered, which is precisely why the propaganda campaigns are so intense and fierce, as I am challenging the whole narrative which they are and have been projecting through this phenomenon, which by their account is completely unacceptable, how a single individual can defy such great powers, which is why their hatred to me is so great, as I in real life contradict their whole narrative, which is why they in a sense have exiled me to live in complete isolation within society, where all my efforts and works have and are being heavily censored and prohibited from the general public's attention, often in such ways that everything is changed completely after being vetted by the establishments. So it again fits their narrative which they are projecting through the program. There is in fact a complete information control set in place, where they are not only controlling what information get out from what I say and do, but also any interaction I have with anybody is completely controlled by the same forces. So if you for a second think that the establishments have any moral or ethical issue with lying and manipulating their own populations to suit their agenda, you are greatly mistaken. This is a fact of life which is ever increasing as the establishment's thirst for power and control over their populations is unquenchable. The only defensive weapon against these aggressive authoritarian tactics are knowledge of what they are doing and what they are seeking to achieve, and only then can you begin to understand what you personally can do to change your own personal situation in this regard, as it will take a massive amount of civilians to change anything these days, as governments do not have the slightest incline to serve the interests of its citizens. For these reasons there is no hope for me, Stephen Bell, as I'm lost to the circumstances of my predicament.